Muses. Welcome to Miss Smart Muses, where we are having Monday musings on this Epiphany Day. Merry Christmas to one and all on this very happy January 6th. And we have this evening none other than from the future, the Viking himself, Steve Kenobi.
Hi.
Hey, how's the future?
It's dark outside.
Mm.
It's night, and really, actually, quite cold now. And you know it's cold when the snow glitters. 'Cause it's
Ooh,
dry-ish.
yeah.
So, yeah, snowed in.
Yeah. Well, we're having our own snowmageddon here in the United States. It's not too bad as far as snow goes, of course, where I am, but it is cold. So yes, but you win when it comes to being cold. Well, look who is. Let's say hi to the chat. It is Chrysanth. Hello, another Rose is with us. Thank you, Chrysanth. Ubaldo T. Thank you for being here. Darth Vader and Aldan. All hail the Lord Dragon. Well, we will be talking about the dragon, definitely a dragon reborn, when we get to our favorite books that we read. Yes, and thank you for everyone giving me Rose. Yes, Stieg, LMAO, laugh my ass off. It is. Yes, there we are. Everyone saying Happy New Year's to everyone. Cheers. Hello, Miss Martin Muses. Stiggin, the Avatar Viking squirrel.
It's
Stieg.
it's it's a it's a squirrel with an Ankh symbol on it. That's where it comes from. I
Oh.
don't know where it started. I have no clue. In his warped mind, I assume, but I've come to appreciate it now.
Yes. Oh no, it is definitely awesome. And oh look, we're getting some love from Salty Traveling Sea. I love Stieg. Oh, there you go. He said
I
what I
know.
Oh, that was a good one. 2 thumbs
I
up.
know.
Oh dear. All right. Well, Al Dan is starting us all off with the best book I read this year was The Butcher's Masquerade, Book 5 in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, and then The Daylight Second. Have you read any of those?
No, never even heard of them. Uh,
Oh,
so they might be great. I don't know.
oh,
Um, Maybe something I'll look into in 5 years because I'm drowning in books. I've been I've been shopping books like crazy for the last 5 years, and I am glad I did because the shipping has skyrocketed the last couple of years. So um, eBay is not profitable for me at all with the shipping and the import taxes that Norway has now. And yeah, it's shipping for a paperback from the US 4 years ago was probably $4. It's now 35 on average
mm.
to ship a paperback from the US to Norway. That's insane, especially if the book just costs $5 itself, right?
Yeah. Well, the good news is that's where I come in because we have an
Yes,
apartment.
I've blackmailed you into being my shipper.
It wasn't but blackmail sounds better. DJ Planet says, good evening and thanks for hosting. Yes. Well, no, that's never going to happen. Ancient One. Best audiobook, says Eldon, ever done. Even if you don't like audio, there's a 0.1% chance you won't love these. Well, this is a good opportunity to do a segue because you have read in 2024 for the first time through audio a certain series, or you began it. Do you want to talk about it?
Yes, I started the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher, and I did the audio because I was going to listen to an audiobook while I was hiking. Sadly, the rain wrecked my MP3 player. So, but yes, Jim Butcher, James Marston, or is it Marsters? The guy who plays Spike on Buffy is the guy reading the the audiobooks for the Dresden Files, and he does it perfectly. So that was awesome. Uh, Perfect casting for an audiobook. And I really enjoyed the first book, and I started the second one, and um, yeah, I'm gonna probably gonna continue with it until I finish the series. But if I understand it correctly, the books are basically like each book is a case, so it has a natural break after each book, which is good.
Hmm. Yes, I've read the first book 2 years ago and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. But then I got into some other series. I would highly recommend it. It's like it's like a film, not a film noir. I forget what the genre is, but like a 1930s detective style, but set in modern times with
Yeah,
supernatural.
uh, the feeling I got from it was a Humphrey Bogart movie mixed with Buffy,
Mm,
kind of.
yeah.
Um, but oh yeah, see they're talking about audiobooks in the chat. You know, the old Star Wars books on audio were great
Hmm.
because they had the Star Wars soundtrack in the background where it fit the scenes and all, and the sound effects and all that. That was great.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if
I,
they do it for the new stuff, but don't read the new stuff anyway because it's junk.
it's garbage. Yeah. We do not endorse Disney Star Wars here and Miss Martin Muses at all. I do remember those original Star Wars audio ones, even if they are abridged. I would get them from the library back in the day and listen to them in my car when I was commuting up to
Well,
college, and
well,
so much fun.
only the Bantam ones are abridged, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, because they were released on CDs and cassette tapes, so you had limited space on each
Mm.
thing. But after Del Rey took over, um, MP3 files had appeared, so
Oh.
they did more. I think it was after the New Jedi Order. That's when they started doing unabridged.
Hmm. And they even, yeah, went back and redid some of them. Ubaldo T says Eruption by Michael Crichton and James Patterson is a book I enjoyed. Fun, fast read. Eruption. I have not heard of that one.
Michael Crichton, isn't that the guy who wrote Jurassic Park and Congo? And
It is.
I think so.
Mm-hmm. Well, that in itself is an endorsement. You see, this is what I love. So maybe all of you that are listening and will be listening on the replay, that you can take note of these, because I am a firm believer in reading books makes you happier. And I know I got it all from Stieg. He was the one who encouraged me that if you start off your day with a book in your hand and read, your the rest of your day just becomes so much better. It's like you go to a different world, and it's just nicer. I just can't
Well,
even tell you
well,
how much that has changed for me.
the argument for it is that, well, one thing that I've seen research on this: if you read for 6 minutes uninterrupted, your stress levels in your body drop
Mm,
because it's a form of medication because you're not thinking about the crap that stresses you out. You've actually shut it away by focusing on reading for, and it only takes 6 minutes. But if you're reading fiction, especially fantasy and sci-fi and stuff, you're reading about a different world. So you're
mhm,
giving your mind a vacation from the real world and whatever's stressing you out in the real world. So I firmly believe that you will be more relaxed and you will sleep better if you finish, well, if the last thing you do before sleep is reading. So read in bed till you fall asleep. And then if you start the day by, just reading a chapter, right? When you wake up, read a chapter, then you've also started the day with a little mind vacation. And I think long term, that actually is good for you.
mhm. I
I might be completely wrong, but it certainly works for me.
It's worked for me, and it was definitely part of my New Year's resolution. And that so far, I've been able to keep it. And if you do that again before you even look on your social media and any of that, you're just gonna have a happier start to your day. There's just no other way to say it. And sticks,
Yeah,
yeah,
basically, a book page good, screen bad.
yeah. You heard it here first. We're gonna put it on a pillow. Uh, Stigmate says Aldan Dresden has always been the best audiobooks ever done until those Crawler books came out. Heads up.
Yeah, I'll make a note of it.
Mhm. Yep. Everyone is, yeah, chatting about that. John 5, hello. And yeah, Dadman Walking, hello. Thank you for being here. Always a lot of fun. Dadman Walking says, I still have my Empire Strikes Back read along book from the 80s. Looks like a 45, but played as a 33 1/3. Did find an error in it. Wow. Yes, I have some of those too. I still have my Christmas with the Stars disco thing that C3PO, the actor, did and has R2 beeping. Yeah.
Oh, Tommy found something that's probably worth a lot.
Hmm.
Uh, Movie reels. Remember those projector reels from before
Oh, yeah.
VHS? Yes, he found a Star Wars one, and it doesn't say A New Hope on it. It says Star Wars, but it doesn't have the whole movie. It has selected scenes
Hmm.
because of space, right?
Yeah.
But that one, and it still works. So I'm thinking he could probably sell that for quite a bit because
Hell yeah.
that is a treasure, isn't it?
I just can't even imagine. So hide them well, Tommy, if you ever hear this, because we love that. Um, Chrysanth makes a good point. I try to read at least a chapter two going before bed to help relax. That too is a good thing to do.
Uh, you, you actually sleep better if you read um, till you're too tired to read and just fall asleep, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, uh, absolutely.
Yeah. John 5 said, so a television series or game cannot do as good an effect than books in general? Well,
Now, not if you want to relax, because if you're, here's the thing, if you're reading, you're an active participant because it requires your focus, and you also have to remember what you read before, and you're actively doing something by reading, right?
hmm,
Well, if you watch a movie or a video, well, a video game is more active because you're it's a two-way communication thing effectively. But television is the worst actually because you're sitting there passively and just being fed,
hmm,
right? It's just happening to you. And there's the thing about looking at a screen before bed, which supposedly isn't that good.
yeah, they've done studies on that. Now, that's not to
But
say that you cannot enjoy television or be
no,
lost in a good story, but it's just the rhythm of your day will be
yeah.
much better.
And heck, if watching TV shows before bed or whatever works for you, then keep doing it.
Hmm.
But in general, it's better if you're participating,
Yep.
which you are when you're reading. And in my case, I'm also translating
Oh,
because
that's
I'm
true.
I'm I'm, I'm reading books in English. So
Our Frost, thank you for being here. Says last year I only reread old books. Hey, go for it. Absolutely.
nothing wrong with that. You know, a lot of old books are great and they're classics for a reason.
Hmm. Yes. Oh, and thank you. Our Frost, if this is your first time here, welcome to Miss Martin Muses, and thank you, Chrysant. It's all Chrysant's fault. Always good to see new people, and give me maybe a like, share it up, subscribe, because I love sharing with people, and this kind of makes me happy. Like even the discussion that we're having right now with Steve, that if someone even gets one thing from this and maybe helps their new year be a little less stressed, I mean, go for it. And yeah, the 80s. We all love the 80s. My gosh. Ah, I still have the Santa cat, Miss Martin. Yes, because it's still Christmas. I, I practice Christmas fully and intensely. I'm one of those. And my Catholic Explaining 12 Days of Christmas talks about that. But yeah, today is Epiphany. Happy Epiphany. If you are a little kid in Sicily, the good witch came and gave you all a bunch of presents. So, yay. It is the Nordporeal life form. He says, I'm going to try and finish the Wheel of Time this year. I have 8 books left. I'm going to start in late February. Now I'm going to try Blood Meridian and maybe Dragon Bone Chair. Ah, well, this is actually my New Year's resolution to finish the Wheel of Time. And the only book that I will be holding in my hand, besides the Bible, will be the Wheel of Time fiction series. I am on book 3 and I have been zooming through it. You see, that's what I've been doing. I've been reading, 50, 60 pages. And yesterday I read 100 pages when I woke up yesterday morning. These books are fantastic. So let us read these together.
Yeah, the Dragon Bone Chair is Tad Williams, which is something I've been putting off reading. I don't know why. I keep getting distracted by other books, but I have all. Well, it was supposed to be 3, but they split one into 2, so it's 4 books. Uh, but it is on my list of stuff to read for the first time soon.
Hmm. Well, there you go. Well, thank you. And speaking of the wheel time, of course, those are going to be ones that we're going to talk about in general. I have a little bit of a slide show that I have. Nerporial says book 3 is fantastic, especially Matt's arc. Yeah, I love it so far. I really like the Aes Sedai in it. I think that that's been really fun, and I've been enjoying Perrin as well.
Also, be
I,
careful of spoilers in the
yeah,
chat.
please do. Yes, please, yes, chat, please do not. Nordporo and I have not been spoiled, and you can only hear a story like this once and without spoilers. Okay, well, this is a series that I finished, and there's like 26 books in it. But this year, I finished up the last 6 books of the Rift War saga, I think is what they eventually ended up calling it.
The
And
the rift the rift for sorry, the Rift War cycle.
cycle. Thank you.
I think. I actually finished this the year the final book came out. So 2015, I think.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I think it's 26 books, and then there's 6 spin-offs, 3 standalone books, and then a trilogy that takes place on the other world.
Mm.
So
Oh,
yep, it's awesome.
yeah. It ended well. And I think when you've read that many books, that's the best that you can say. I cannot complain about it. Yeah,
Yeah,
Rift
and
War saga.
uh, Feist ended it well.
Mm-hmm.
And personally, I think when you have a big fantasy series like the Wheel of Time or the Rift War cycle, what have you, the ending can't possibly please everyone because there's so many readers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Millions of readers, and I think if you get a satisfying ending, uh, that is good enough for me. It doesn't have to be the best fantastic ending ever because the guy next door might think it's shit, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's impossible to get a universal, superb ending. But a satisfying ending, that's yeah. He and I think you'd agree that he finished it really well.
Yes. We did the first book, The Magician, which you have said is a 10 out of 10. And I agree. If you don't read any more of this series, and you can get away with this, by the way, read just the first book. Sometimes it's called Magician, what, Magician Master. I forget what the other one,
Apprentice, yeah,
Apprentice to
yeah.
Master.
It basically what happened, they split it. It was intended to be one book, and then the publisher split it in two, and then it got put back to one book again later on.
Hmm.
So I guess it's Raymond Feist Magician,
Yeah,
which is what it's called now.
yeah. So
Um,
it's an amazing read.
yeah, it's rare to see an author do his first bit of writing work that
Hmm.
well, because I don't think he's managed to top that book ever
Mm-mm.
since.
No, yeah. Aldan agrees. It's top tier, and you can definitely read it as a standalone. Yes, and we read it in our book discussion with Rennie. So if you want to start or just do Magician, go ahead and do that, and maybe watch the streams with us because it's so worth it. Or you could even do the first three. What I think that Raymond Feist does so well with these books is that he makes you love the characters. Like it goes over several hundred years, so characters are going to die, and then he has a way of just bringing you new characters that you adore, and you really, really want to see them happy, and that is a gift.
Yeah, and don't you have a funny story about how you got the collector's edition version?
Oh, I did, and it's the saddest story ever for Stieg. There is a magnificent book hardcover that you can get, and I think you ended up getting it for about $60, if I'm correct.
Yeah, and that was on the cheap end.
Mm-hmm.
I basically had you get it for me in the US and then ship it to me. So I should save money on shipping. So it was $60.
Yeah.
And
And
then
then
it happened.
and then it happened. I think you found it. You're like, "Wait, some dude is offering this for like $3 at the price of
It was
a
it
paperback."
was it was $2.
Oh, yeah, it's too oh, even
And
less.
it said hardcover and it was looked like the same one I had just gotten for 60.
Yeah. And
And I
we
I think I told you that, hey, on the off chance this is legit, get it. If it isn't, I'll give you $2.
mhm.
Right? And sure as hell, you got the collector's edition hardcover with the original cover
For
for $2.
$2. I know, it was amazing. When it came in the mail in my box, I was like, "It's heavy, it's heavy." And I opened it and boom, there it was. Yes. So
It's gorgeous, and I'm not complaining that I paid 60 for it because the one I
mhm,
paid was it is gorgeous and all that. But yeah,
yeah.
two
So
two
please,
bucks would have been better.
yes. Well, it all balances out at the end. R. Frost says, last books I reread were the Fianniver Tapestry series by Guy Gavriel Kay. Are you familiar with that?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
maybe we can look at. Yeah.
This is why this is why book streams are really good because you get all kinds of recommendations too.
Mm-hmm. And look who is here, the crochet lady herself and the lore master, the storyteller. It is Unlocking Lore TGC. Good evening. Hello, hail to the chat. I got 50 book goal in 2024. Wow. Well done. Yeah, if you all are not familiar with Unlocking Lore and the crochet that she does, we've done some crochet streams and 50 books. Yeah, I read 50 books the year before, but then I made my goal a little bit less because of the
No, you
big
didn't
books
do
that I was
50,
reading.
you did 30.
No,
No.
no. 2 years before. The year, okay, you're right. The year before is 2024. 2023, I did 50. And then I
Oh,
lowered it to 30 and I raised it to 35. So I ended up getting to 35.
yeah. It's basically if you look at what you plan on reading, and if it's a
Hmm.
lot of bricks, don't set the goal too high.
Hmm. Yeah. And you can always extend it. It's better to extend it than to lower it. So now this is something that's been new and absolutely amazing. I don't know if you want to introduce these, the new Conan books from Titan.
Yeah, these are well, they did two series. It's Conan the Barbarian, and they restarted the Savage Sword of Conan,
Hmm.
which was probably the most popular series of the two back in the day
Hmm.
due to the splendid artwork. But I've read, I think I've read all three of these. These are the omnibuses, right?
Hmm.
Um, they're great. They nailed it with these, I think.
Yeah. For the first time, I was able to go to my local comic book shop on a Wednesday and get these and just be so excited about them. I've read these as individual comics, and
Yeah.
mm, so good.
Bas- yeah, basically, the whole comic industry isn't wrecked.
No.
It's mostly the superhero stuff that's really screwing up. Conan is, oddly enough, he's been left alone by the woke stuff, because you you'd think he would be one of the first victims of it, right?
Hmm.
Given that he's very much a toxic male, and all that, and the women are scantily clad, and so it's like a, a third wave feminist wet dream of something to attack. But it's been left alone. I don't know why. And but I'm not complaining.
No. And you brought up a good point as well. Comics are not as bad as sometimes it is portrayed. Sometimes it just helps to emphasize certain characters, and it is true, it's been a disgrace what they've done to certain legacy characters that are very popular in the popular culture, Spider-Man, but there is a lot of great stuff that is still being written in comic books, so go and find them, they're
Yeah,
treasures.
yeah. They've also done the old Elric of Melniboné by Michael Moorcock. That I think they've adapted novels into graphic novels now, and they look completely fantastic. I haven't
Yeah,
read them, but I'm toying with the idea of buying the box set. But
yeah.
that's uh, I think it was Michael Moorcock who coined the term sword and sorcery.
Oh,
Maybe,
yes, he was. Ah, I have a video about that. Yes. It
yeah,
was in something, a letter that he had written, or rather an editorial in one of those magazines that they had published back in the 60s.
yeah. And his books are weird. They're based as heck, and the stories reads like a heavy metal album cover. You know, it's
Hmm.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yep. And yeah, the He-Man, I forgot. Yes, they did mess with him. But again, there's some really, really good stuff out there that you can find. And of course, Conan the Barbarian. You just can't go wrong with taking you to another world. So
Yeah, I mean,
definitely.
he predates Tolkien,
Yep.
and Robert E. Howard uh, kind of is the Tolkien prototype almost, because both Tolkien and Howard wrote uh, they created a world that was supposed to be our world, but prehistory, right?
Hmm.
Pre-written history, and with an alternative mythology. So they did the same thing, but from a different angle. Because Robert E. Howard went the gritty barbarian route,
Yeah.
while Tolkien went more with more mythology.
What's amazing about what Robert Howard did was the fact that he was able to create this incredible world in like a year or 2 years. Conan the Barbarian was the last thing that man wrote. He was only really writing for 10 years when he sadly removed himself from the world. He was definitely mentally ill. I can only just imagine what would have happened if he'd have lived. Can you imagine what he would have written?
Yeah, and well, he also wrote Solomon Kane,
Hmm.
which had a very good movie in 2009, I think. It was released in Europe. It was released later in the US. That movie is completely awesome. Um, and the Solomon Kane books are great as well. Not politically correct with today's standards, but because of the language, but they he also wrote historical fiction, had some heroic characters, monkey around in Scotland during the Dark Ages, and Red Sonja, who is now a Marvel character, um, was not created by Robert E. Howard, but he had a Red Sonja character as well, and she
Yeah.
was a Polish swinging lady who hated the Ottoman Empire. I think it was. Uh, I think there was only one story about her, but then, in honor of that story, Marvel Comics created Red Sonja, who we know today, with the chainmail bikini lady.
Mm,
But she has nothing to do with the character Howard created.
correct. And he had an Irish character, and he even studied the Irish language for a little bit. Robert Howard did. I mean, just so amazing in this small Texas town from which he lived. Also, he did a boxing story that was really popular. That was some of his most popular things that he
One
wrote.
of the weird things he said was when he was writing the Conan stories, he was sitting there in the dark,
Hmm.
with a little lamp typing, and he felt like Conan was standing behind him with a big axe,
Hmm.
and he was going to plant the axe in his head if he didn't write properly.
Yeah,
So it was pretty, well, he did write properly though, because that guy could write.
yeah, he was amazing. When you get into his books, and I brought up the stories that are truly his, because remember the comics, that is Jim Zub and all of them writing their own characters based on him, his Conan the
Yeah,
Barbarian. But these are two original works. Actually, one of them is a Conan the Barbarian, and the other one is a Solomon Kane that I read this year. And holy crud, are they amazing! Especially
yeah,
Wings in the Night. Oh my gosh, that was one of the last books I read this year. That was wild. I loved it.
yeah. Weird cover on it though, if you think about it, because it's a Solomon Kane story. So
Hmm.
why is there a barbarian on the cover, right? Because
Yeah,
Solomon Kane takes place, I think it's the 1600s,
correct. He's a
usually in England. It's a Puritan fighting evil.
hmm yeah. It's crazy. I said in the biography of Robert E. Howard that only he could take a character into a pilgrim, a sword wielding Puritan going around kicking ass and wearing his Puritan hat, fighting monsters. It is so amazing. And this
Yeah.
one, Wings in the Night, when I say it was wild, this is set in Africa, and holy crud. Did it have a climax like you won't believe? I don't want to give it away because I really want people to read this, but it is amazing. And
Well,
Solomon Kane, love him.
you know what? Quite often I see, Christians complain that, hey, we don't get Christian heroes anymore in fantasy or, pop culture and whatever. And that is true. But go back. Solomon
Hmm.
Kane is right there.
Yeah, yeah. He's amazing. He's a great, if you will, Protestant hero. What can you want better during that time in that era? Though the movie that I watched based on Solomon King, which by the way, perfectly cast with James Purefoy as Solomon Kane, and it was really too bad that it didn't do better at the box office because I think you'd said that they had some distribution issues, but if that had been able to continue, it was so good that there was a few historical inaccuracies in it. But guess what? Who cares? If you want to get a if you want to get a good introduction to Solomon Kane, go ahead and watch that movie. And and or read Wings in the Night because that is a wild tale.
Well, they've released all of Howard's work now, I think, in a
Hmm.
in a series of books. There's 3 or 4 volumes of Conan, and then one Solomon Kane. Uh, so if you get the Solomon Kane one, you get all of it, including the half
Hmm.
finished stories. You know, that
Yeah.
they included everything.
Yep. There you are. Now, this Queen of the Black Coast, that's a love story, and it has a character of Belit. So, if you want to maybe read a very good classic, maybe the best of Conan the Barbarian, this is a great one. It's where he kind of becomes a pirate, and again, there's this very beloved character. I think it's one of Robert E. Howard's best female characters, in my humble opinion, that I've read so far. So, definitely a
Yeah,
must read.
basically with that one, there's a time gap in it where it just says they had lots of adventures and stuff,
Hmm.
right? So you
Hmm.
you get the beginning and the end, and then the middle is just kind of skipped over. The middle part was a really popular comic run by Marvel in the 70s and 80s, I think, where they have piles of comics that fill in that gap with Conan and Bellet.
Oh, there you are.
So
Oh, did I mispronounce her name? I called her Belit.
no, it could be that that's the correct way. I just say Bellet,
Mm-hmm.
but so you could read up until it says they had many adventures together, and then do the comics, and then read the end.
Oh, well, there you go. And Titan did a run where it was set after this book. So yay, enjoy. Love Robert E. Howard. Ah, speaking of the Wheel of Time, I think we already kind of mentioned it, but you read Wheel of Time, all of the books as they came out, or most of them as they came out.
What happened was I had read The Lord of the Rings and the first 5 or 6 Terry Brooks books, so I was getting hooked on fantasy. And I think I got the Wheel of Time, the book one for Christmas or whatever, and I got seriously hooked. Um, I read them in Norwegian because they were, translated, and but after a while they started splitting the books into two and then three, and charging over $20 per part. So $60 for one book in the 90s was pretty steep. So I started reading them in English, and I was like, oh, what? Wait, there's more books in English that have been published, because the last book I bought in Norwegian was book 5, and I just assumed there were just 5 books yet, but no, book 9 I think was about to get published in English. So I just okay, I'm continuing in English, because the paperbacks were about $6 a piece at the time. That's cheaper.
Hmm.
Six
Yeah,
bucks for one book instead of 60 for a book split into three.
yeah.
But so when I finished book, it was Winter's Heart. I think that's 9. After that, I had to wait for uh, for the next book uh, until the end. But what me and a lot of other fans did was, while we were waiting for the next book, we reread the other ones, right?
Hmm.
So to keep track of all the names and stuff, because this is one of the most ambitious fantasy series ever written, because there's thousands of characters in it with
Hmm.
I don't know how many plot lines, 50, I don't know, but it's a tapestry. And the only other one I've seen that's done it to that degree is Martin, but he hasn't finished. So,
Yep.
um,
So you suck until you finish.
yeah,
Yep. Well, We have a super chat from Salty Traveling Sea for $2. A whole bunch of roses, a bunch of showers of roses, and a cheers. Thank you so much, Salty Traveling Sea. And for that, you, sir, get a beautiful rose. Thank you very much. And all of you, if you have not subscribed or followed Salty Traveling Sea, please go ahead and do so. Yeah. Robert Jordan, what impresses me so much about him, I've studied him, I did a biography of him on my a
Your
video on my
sound is skipping a little bit.
oh, for crying out loud, I hate my life. Okay, let me see if I can fix that.
I think it happened after you played the thing.
Yeah, maybe they don't they don't like my cute little video thing, you jerks. Okay, I'm just fixing it here. But what impresses me about what Robert Jordan was able to accomplish was he loved his fans so much that when he got a fatal diagnosis for crying out loud, he knew he was going to die, and he made sure and reassured his fans that they would get an ending to this story. And he entrusted it to his wife, who was his editor, and had all these notes and verbally told what was going to be happening even on his deathbed, because to him it was so important that he not only finish his magnum opus but also he felt he owed it to the fans. And that is why I will always be a big fan of Robert Jordan's.
Yeah, and I don't know how many fantasy series I've read. A lot. I've read most of the big ones, or rather the long ones, what have you. But
Mm-hmm.
Robert Jordan will always be my favorite because I don't think I've been more hooked on any fantasy series than the Wheel of Time. I guess it was just on my frequency. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. No, it makes perfect sense. What
Yeah,
you love the best is what you love the best.
yeah.
Nick McCabe is here all the way from Down Under. Thank you for being here. And speaking of finishing the story, we know that it was finished by Mr. Sanderson. Woo! And Lucky Laura says she has read Mistborn Trilogy and Skyboard.
Yeah,
So,
that's
yeah.
Sanderson.
Yep. I have not read those books. Maybe one day I'll get into him, but I'm going to be finishing up Robert Jordan. So, yeah, I've got a lot of respect for the man. And he also
Sam,
wrote some Conan the Barbarian books.
yeah, Howard did, but no, sorry, Jordan.
Jordan.
Uh,
Well, yeah,
the,
definitely
the,
Howard did.
yeah, Jordan does not shy away from nudity in the Conan books. He's probably had the most nudity in the Conan books I've ever seen. And there's nothing in the Wheel of Time, really. Uh, but he's sticking to the genre that he's writing in, right?
Yep.
Sticking to the rating. But Sanderson did. I don't think he did a fantastic job ending the Wheel of Time. I think he did a very satisfying job, which, like I said earlier, is the best you can hope for.
Mm-hmm.
And he's basically finishing off a series he didn't write. So kudos to him for even having the balls to attempt it, you know, because it has to be really daunting. Because um, the big risk with it is if you didn't do it well, or heck, even if Robert Jordan's ending wasn't good, he'd get blamed,
Yes.
right? He'd be the one that, oh yeah, he destroyed the Wheel of Time, right? Even if it wasn't even his fault. So I think it took probably um, a lot of courage to do so, but it was also a great career move. Paid off.
Mm. Well, there you go. Yeah, and that's what made him very famous. Now, unlocking Lawrence Saudi Traveling's here, pointing out that his later books, the ones that are coming out now, are woke and they've got aspects of it. I have heard that. Oh, it's too bad. Hey, Sanderson, it's your legacy, man. Get your act
Yeah.
together.
I never cared for his books. I've read the Mistborn books. I was told they were fantastic. I didn't think so. There's nothing wrong with them. They're excellently written and all, but it's a the frequency thing. It
Hmm.
simply wasn't my cup of tea,
Sure.
and I don't know why. I think maybe his magic systems tend to be a bit Marvel superhero-ish. I don't know. Um, but like I said, I have lots of respect for the guy, and
Yeah.
simply not my cup of tea.
Yeah. And fair enough. Yeah. Definitely.
Or maybe I like it better if I read it now, right?
That's that's a possibility too. But I do agree with you the fact that from everything I've heard, it was a very daunting task what he undertook and that he did it well to finish off the Wheel of Time. I
Yeah,
wouldn't be able to read all 14 books if it wasn't for him.
yeah.
All right. Well, look here, kids. This one I finally read this year. The trilogy, the Dritz trilogy, I guess. Or wait, is it called
It's called the Icewind Dale trilogy.
Icewind Dale trilogy? Yeah.
It's the first Drizzt trilogy. The Crystal Shard was pretty much what really kicked off the Forgotten Realms. It wasn't the first trilogy written in the Forgotten Realms, but it was the first, big hit, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the last Drizzt book was released, I think it was last year or the year before, and it started in '88. So at one point, it was the longest running fantasy series in the world until they started doing Dragonlance again,
Mm,
because that started in '84. So that has technically been going on since '84. But there's been breaks though in it. But
yeah.
yeah,
I loved it.
but this series goes woke too, not due to the writer, but due to Wizards of the Coast, who owns the D&D IP, and therefore the characters in this book.
Yeah. It's so sad what Wizards of the Coast is. We do not endorse Wizards of the Coast here at Miss Martin Muses, but this trilogy was so much fun. I loved Dritz. I love Guinevere. All right, I always say it wrong. Guinevere. The damn
Guinevere,
Guinevere,
Guinevere
I
the
think.
Panther. Yeah,
I said it right the second time. And the dwarf is amazing. Like, look at the cover with him in the middle. I love him. And I thought it was just a fantastic series. I love
yeah.
Dritz.
I would say that the Dark Elf trilogy that takes place before this, but was written after, is probably a better story
Hmm.
because it's deeper. But this trilogy is pure fun. This is and I've reread this one many times. Um, uh, the second book, Streams of Silver, is probably one of my favorite R.A. Salvatore books. Don't tell me why or ask me why, but it's just I really enjoyed the second one because it's a journey book, isn't it? And they're looking for a lost dwarven place, and I have a sneaking suspicion it might have been inspired by The Hobbit in that one,
Mm,
but that doesn't matter though. It's great and a much loved fantasy series.
yeah.
And you have like 40 or 50 books left, so
Yay. No, I loved them. And I think that if you have not read the series, that you are definitely in for a treat. And Ancient One says back in the day, maybe Peter Jackson should have done a Dark Elf trilogy film while he had the chance. Well, they wouldn't have did rights issues, but I don't know. Peter Jackson, he did great things with the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but he's been on my crap list for a bit. But maybe the Peter Jackson of 20 years ago may have been able to do it. Who knows? What
yeah,
if?
maybe. But then again, Jackson did great with the Lord of the Rings, but I don't think he's done great with anything else. You
Not
know,
really. Okay, I'm going to be moving forward here now. We already did the Great Hunt. We did this. And now, oh, wait, I did that as well. Speaking of Dritz and Alray Salvatore's books, the Cleric Quintet. I read all 5 of these. Oh my gosh. I really enjoyed this. At first, I was pissed because for some reason I thought that we were going to see more Dritz and Gwendoir and all those other characters, but we weren't, entirely new ones. But by the second book, he had me on board. I fell in love with these characters. Even the one that I know you're not as crazy about, the main character, but man, 5 books and what a satisfying climax. I loved them.
Yeah, and they do merge with the Dritz books later on.
Yeah, I
So
can't wait.
they started as their own thing, and then they got merged. So it's
Yeah.
I like them. I think most people prefer the Dritz books because Dritz is more fun than Cataly. But I've never heard anyone say they hated them either. You know?
Mm. Yeah, and there's a Danica, a lot of really good female characters in this Canticle series. Really fell
Yeah.
in love with them. Yeah. 2 thumbs up. Claire
Well,
Quintet was great.
the dwarves steal the show.
Oh, well, yeah.
They do.
Michael
Big
and
Pikel and Ivan.
they're so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the best dwarves ever. Ah. Oh, this is interesting. Ancient One says, speaking of Dark Elf Trilogy, did you know that when R.A. Salvatore first started playing EverQuest, they offered to allow him to play a Dark Elf Ranger? Instead, he played a human monk. Oh, well.
Yeah. I can tell you one thing. He wanted this story, the Cleric Quintet, to be a story about a monk. The monks are kung fu people in D&D.
Mm-hmm.
But they said no. They wanted uh, the main character to be a cleric because they wanted to promote the cleric class a bit as well for D&D.
Mm.
So instead, Cataly the cleric has a girlfriend who's a monk. So he snuck it in as a side character. But he wanted to do like a kung fu story.
Yeah, that was the genius of what they did back in the day because you could play the D&D games and then play around in these stories. So it was, I don't want to say an expanded universe because that's, I don't like comparing like EU to other different things or, same way Lord of the Rings to something else because each one is unique. But I really feel like they went all out in the 80s and with what they did with the Forgotten Realms, they really had everything for anybody that wanted to read, play, and
Yeah, I think at the height of the Forgotten Realms, they were releasing a little over 20 novels per year set in the Forgotten Realms.
mm-hmm.
Now they're down to 0. And the
Yeah.
reason behind that is Wizards of the Coast, that they actually said this, they didn't want their D&D players to feel like they had to do homework.
Ugh.
And I'm like, if you're reading novels to learn more about a world, you're doing it because you love it and want to. It's not because you feel you have to do homework.
Yeah. Totally misreading their fans and what they had. They have had a gold mine and they threw it away. The Thrawn trilogy. Speaking of the expanded universe, Star Wars, always my favorite. This has a very, very soft spot in my heart because we didn't have any Star Wars. The only Star Wars we had after the Return of the Jedi was the Ewok Adventures TV movies. I think there was a Droids cartoon, but we didn't really have the story that happened after the Return of the Jedi. And this not only expanded, if you will, on it, but it was a very adult trilogy while staying true to Star Wars. We had Thrawn, we had Mara Jade, we got to see Luke as he slowly is becoming a Jedi Master, Han and Leia, the twins being born. I friggin' love this trilogy. and so do you, Steak, I think. Or wait, did we lose Steak? We lost him to Star Wars. So much love that we let's see if we can maybe figure out what's going on with Steak. Bring him back in. Oh wait, is he muted? Okay. Something's going on. So we will figure it out. But in any case, I love, 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 love the trilogy. And I did reread the graphic novels. And sadly, this is probably the only way that we are going to get an adaptation of this, unless for some weird reason they decide to go ahead and make it into a cartoon and they can use Leia's voice. It's very easy for them to find different actors to make it into a proper trilogy. But I don't think that we're ever going to get that, which is sad because
No,
Disney sucks.
it's because Dave Filoni stole Thrawn and put it in his own stuff and dumbed him
Exactly.
down. So they can't really start doing original Thrawn, can they? But
Yep.
here's the thing. You know when people say that George Lucas hated the EU or whatever, and he especially hated Mara Jade.
Bull.
George Lucas commissioned this trilogy and approved everything in it. That
Mm-hmm.
includes Mara Jade. And after he did that, they did a Return of the Jedi audio drama. And well, they did an audio drama for all of them,
Mm-hmm.
the original trilogy. Lucas put Mara Jade into the Return of the Jedi audio drama because she
Yep.
is at Jabba's palace during that time,
Yeah.
posing as a dancer because she wants to kill Luke.
Yeah.
So if he hated Mara Jade, why the heck did he put her in the Return of the Jedi audio drama?
And if he hated Mara Jade, why did he give permission? Because he actually did give the permission, the go ahead to have Luke marry her.
Yep.
Yeah. Great stuff. So read these graphic novels. That'll be the closest that you will get to seeing a proper adaptation of this. But of course, read the original books. I mean, when it came out, I've said this before, I'll say it again. We didn't have the internet. And unless you were really on top of things, reading all those fanzines and stuff, I did that. I was a junior in high school. So I'm minding my own business at the mall, and boom, I see it there. It's like, what? What is this? And it's
Yep.
like the continuation. And it said Lucasfilm authorized this story. That's the other thing. That it was very clear that it's the authorized story. I was like, holy sh! And I bought that book and read the F out of it. And then sister, you gotta read this. Her boyfriend, you gotta read this. And then when each one came out, the next one was my senior year. The next one was my freshman year of college. You just couldn't wait. It was almost as exciting, not quite, because nothing will ever beat the original trilogy, but it brought back that original anticipation and had such a satisfactory ending.
Yeah, and out of all the Star Wars trilogies of books that have been written, this is probably the one that feels the most like a movie trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say I don't think this is the best Star Wars books ever written. I think it's hyped up a bit due to the impact it had, right? But it's certainly probably what you should start with if you're if you want to get into the Star Wars expanded universe.
Yeah, I
You know,
completely agree.
but I saw an interview with George Lucas. I think it was from '83 or '84 when he was asked, what's going to happen with Star Wars now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he said the story of Han, Luke, and Leia will continue in comic books and novels. And then a few years later, he commissions this trilogy.
Yep.
It was pretty clear what he meant.
Yep.
Yeah, Coruscant is yeah
Yep.
came out of the and also Tusken Raider because in the old trilogy they're called Sand People. Then they got expanded upon in the book in the novels and comics and called Tusken Raiders because they had sacked Fort Tusken.
Yeah,
And lo and behold, the prequel trilogy happens, and they're referred to as Tusken Raiders.
darn right. And I remember how excited I was to see Coruscant because I'd only seen it described from the books and in the Phantom Menace when that happened. Not to mention Shizor from the expanded
Well,
universe shows up
uh,
in the Phantom Menace.
yeah, Xizor is at the pod race, but the first glimpse of Coruscant that we see is in the special editions of Return of the Jedi at the celebration thing at the end because they see all the planets.
Ah, yeah, but you know how they actually said the word and you saw it from the thing. But
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
what you mean. Yeah.
yeah, the first time we hear it is in the Phantom Menace.
Okay, fair point. Um, Our Frost says, "Oh my goodness, I worked on Star Wars games." He didn't say, "Oh my goodness," I did. Excuse me. I worked on Star Wars games, and we got to talk a lot with the folks at LucasArts and Skywalker Ranch who held on to the canon. They were very particular. Well, there we go. We've got a source, everybody.
Yeah, they had to be if they wanted to keep continuity.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yep. Absolutely.
I
And
mean, I
he's
mean, if you have a franchise and you don't treat it with care, why should the fans care, right?
mm-hmm. Absolutely. And this whole idea that they did not. That's just a fiction that is from the shills and from the Disney narrative. We were there. It's like that line from Lord of the Rings when Elrond in the movie, rather, it's like, I was there. I was there when it happened. We lived it. So we know what is true and what is not. Thank you, R. Frost, for coming in. And thank you for Chrysanth. Yeah, we love Chrysanth. She's my cousin, another flower. Thank you for being here. Or Frost said, Star Wars Jedi Knight, Jedi Outcast, and Academy, they wouldn't let us put a toilet fresher in the at interior or it would become canon in the universe. Ah, well, there you are. Wow.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that information. That makes complete sense. And speaking of Tommy, we were talking about you, Tommy, in a nice way about some of the things that you had collected when we were talking about things. It is Tommy and the Guinea Pig Collective. If you have not subscribed to him and watched his material, please go ahead and do so. He's got all the toys. He has all the
Oh,
stories
heck
behind
yeah.
them. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, heck yes. He. There's the guy's an encyclopedia.
Yep. So, alrighty. And we mentioned a little bit of George R. R. Martin because he sucks in so many ways, but the part that he sucks about is that he doesn't know how to keep his big mouth shut. And he doesn't know how to finish a series. However, Fire and Blood, which I read this year in the three books from the Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Oh my gosh, did I love these? I've loved these more than A Song of Ice and Fire, probably because when I try to read A Song of Ice and Fire, I get so pissed off because there's not an ending. But Fire and Blood, because it's written as a history book, it's great. You have an ending, if you will, because it's a history book. History never ends. And of course, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, they are very episodic. Duncan Egg. Love these characters.
Yeah. The annoying stuff is, if it had been a crap writer that's not finishing,
Mm-hmm.
no big deal. But the guy is such a great writer. He
Yeah.
is. His writing skills is 10 out of 10.
Yeah. So I did read A Storm of Swords this year, but I stopped again because he was messing around with us, giving hints that he was going to finish it, and then he didn't. So the Song of Ice and Fire, the one in the middle, I'm cranky about. It is a great book, an amazing book, but F you, George R. R. Martin,
Yeah.
until you finish.
Out of all those three books, the Storm of Swords is the best.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Tommy says some authors stay humble in the face of success, others become egomaniacs. Yes and no. When Martin comes, I find he's very Jekyll and Hyde. Sometimes I really, really like what he says, and then sometimes, yes, he comes off as an well, I'll finish it when I feel like it. It's like, oh, thank you, who died and made you God. All right. But we've talked
yeah.
about that a lot.
I, I, I think his problem is he can't read the room. I think he has
Mm,
some kind of social. weakness, something, because he doesn't come off really as an asshole when you actually listen to what he's saying instead of just reading headlines, right?
Hmm.
But it's just he's so tone deaf.
Yeah. And that's why we're pissed at him. Now, if he would have finished the series, he would be a hero. Like you said, he would be up there with Robert Jordan and, Tolkien and all of these as some of the great fantasy writers. Though, of course, no one panic, okay? I love Tolkien more than anybody else. I'm not comparing the two of them. But if he completes this, it would be epic.
Yeah,
Absolutely epic, especially if it's
yeah,
better than the ending of Game of Thrones. It's in his hands and he's choosing not to. But the happy ending to it all is A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, Dunk and Egg. I love these characters. I love Egg and I love Dunk. And we you said, Steve, that you don't think that he's published the other ones because it would have impacted the Song of Ice and Fire.
yeah. I think the sequel to Fire and Blood is held back as well due to how it would spoil stuff that is to be revealed in the main series. But
Mm.
uh, there's so many other things to read anyway. So
Yeah.
if it gets finished, great. If it doesn't, I have other things to read.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
And we
there's definitely been book series and TV shows and whatever else that has not been finished in the past. I mean, how many TV shows have you been hooked on that just got canceled?
Oh, I know, and it pisses me off. However,
Yeah.
when they get canceled, it's not the writers sitting around going, "Oh, I guess we're going to be canceled. I've got better things to do with my life." But
Sometimes it's due to maybe they switch out the writers and then they fuck it up.
yeah, but
So it's not like we haven't experienced a story not being finished before.
no, but in this case, what's unique is this man's choice. He has the world in his hands, and he, for some reason, won't finish it. That's
Yeah,
what's
he's sitting on his hand, so it begs the question: where's his thumbs located?
different. We know where. But as I said, Fire and Blood I love, absolutely love. House of Dragon is garbage. It started off a 7 out of 10. I think what I felt like the first season was. Second season sucked, but if you read the Fire and Blood, I think you people will really enjoy it, and you will be delighted with Dunk and Egg. And since it is episodic, you'll be fine with how it
Oh,
ends.
Dunk and Egg is almost like a TV show, like
Mhm.
a 4 episodes per story, or I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why it might actually make a very good TV show.
Yeah.
Hmm. If they don't change it. Oh,
Well,
whoops.
they're tying it into the other shit shows. So
Yeah. All roads lead to season 8. All right.
season
Well, that's
5, 6, 7, and 8.
that's true. So, Steve, that's my series of favorite books. A little slideshow I made. Is there anything that you read that you would like to highlight that we haven't talked about yet?
That I read this year.
Hmm.
I finished the Meetings series. It's a Dragonlance series of 6 books.
Hmm.
How all the heroes from the original trilogy meet. So it takes place, before. It was a mixed bag. Actually, it was not written by Weiss and Hickman, but it was. I didn't regret reading it or anything, but I'm probably not going to reread it
Hmm.
because, yeah. And I finished rereading the first Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie, which is one of my favorite fantasy authors at this point. He's definitely on my top 5. Um, Basically, the way he writes is kind of like if you mix George Martin with Tolkien and you have the script written by Quentin Tarantino.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, almost everyone is at least half psychotic in the books. Many of them aren't too bright, but oddly enough, you root for them like crazy. You
Hmm.
know, so awesome stuff. And like I said, I read the first Jim Butcher book, which Dresden File, which was great. I reread the George Martin books, all of them, the Duncan
Hmm.
Egg and the main series and Fire and Blood. Had a blast reading that. Because I
Yeah.
figured, hey, it can't be that far away, book six. I figured maybe I'll freshen up and just reread. And besides, it was time for a reread. So I enjoyed that, Um, and I read the last Drizzt trilogy, which is the finale.
Hmm.
This is it. Drizzt is over with. So series that has been going on since 1988. So
That's amazing.
it did not end on a. It didn't end greatly. It was very woke, and I finished. I think I finished reading all the story-based Tolkien stuff for Middle Earth.
Hmm.
I did Beren and Luthien, and
Yay.
the Fall of Numenor last year. That was the ones I had left. Um, I liked the Fall of Numenor better because the Beren and Luthien one was just like it wasn't really a storybook. It was like different versions of this and that, and then there was like a page explaining how they got those pages. You know,
Yeah, it wasn't a
very
narrative.
yeah, it was very interruptive. The Numenor book was different. That one was a bit more like Fire and Blood actually, because it just went through the history of Numenor and even had a little chapter about plants on Numenor, things like that. So that one was better. Um, but Beren and Luthien, I'm thinking the best story about them is actually in the Silmarillion.
Yeah, get that.
Yeah,
We're at a
and
point where they're just kind of publishing like everything that Tolkien ever wrote, including notes he probably wrote. What did you say on toilet paper somewhere? And it is fascinating for those of us that love Tolkien to hear all the different thoughts behind it. But as you said, it's not necessarily if you're looking for the story
yeah,
of Beren and Lúthien, go into the Silmarillion.
yeah. Here's like a book with doodles that Tolkien did on the toilet,
Yeah,
and 15 pages talking about each doodle. You don't have to publish that stuff.
yeah.
It's
Hmm.
all it's almost gotten beyond milking the cow at this point, right? Um,
Yeah. Except for the fact that I'll still buy it.
yeah, um, I might too, but I have a sneaking suspicion that there's going to be a War of Wrath book
Hmm.
eventually, because that's long enough to have a narrative, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, it's enough now. It's
Yeah.
getting very watered down. I don't know. Do you agree with that?
Well, maybe watered down is the wrong word for it, but I think as long as people understand that what you're getting is basically the notes of J.R.R. Tolkien, then you can maybe enjoy them for what they are. But the way that they are being marketed and the way that they look in the books and things, I think it could be deceptive. It's like, hey, you're not getting a book, you're getting notes.
Yeah, because they're like, yeah, a brand new, unreleased Tolkien novel, and
Hmm.
that's not exactly what it is.
No. And they never quite say that, but the presentation is a little bit. And I have some issues with the current custodian of, well, frankly, he's not the custodian of Tolkien's work. That was Christopher Tolkien. Tolkien gave it to his son, Christopher. He didn't give it to his grandkids. And Christopher Tolkien sadly has passed away. And now I'm not sure that there's a member of the Tolkien family that is very careful or caring about the works of their grandfather.
No, it looks like it's a moneymaker, and
Yeah.
they're already fucking it up.
Yeah, the fact that Simon cooperated with the Rings of Power, I mean, and the fact that they even allowed it to happen, it's just shameful. And well, I'm glad
Not
that
just
Chris.
that, Christopher Tolkien wasn't even cold in the grave when they did the deal. It's like they couldn't wait for him to pass away and sign a deal with Amazon.
Yeah, I don't think it would have happened if it had been Christopher, or I'm not sure that Christopher would have stayed silent. I don't like to say what the dead would or wouldn't have done, but I think he would have had some words. He had some words about the Peter Jackson trilogy too, which I completely respect and
Yeah,
understand. Yeah. So Ancient One, I'm not really sure what I would do if I saw Aragorn fighting Dritz and them. I don't know. I don't like to mix my worlds, but I guess it would be fun. And I'm
I
not sure about
I,
a
I think it I think it would be a quick fight, and I think Dritz would win.
uh-oh, no one's gonna hate you.
No, Dritz is a sword master using two swords. He also has magical abilities.
Oh, that's true. Aragorn does not.
Yeah, Aragorn's not a sword master if we're going by the books.
Mhm. All
He's
right.
not a renowned duelist or anything like that, is he? He's a ranger, you know.
And he's my king. So I love him. But I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah. Oh my goodness. So you already talked about Abercrombie, and did you read any nonfiction this year that you would recommend?
No.
Hmm. Okay.
I finished the standalone spin-offs uh, by Raymond Feist and other authors. He kind of co-wrote it.
Mm.
So it's three books that takes place during Magician. Um, and I finished the third one last year, which was great. It's called Honored Enemy. It's about
Oh,
a group of I guess a lot of rangers and stuff uh, from the Kingdom armies having to team up with the invading Suranis um, during a very cold winter, and they're being hunted by the Dark Elves, the Moradel in the north. So it's a bit of the enemy of my enemy is my friend in a way, and how they kind of come together and work together, and there's all the differences are showcased and the cultural differences, and it was that was a great book actually.
mm,
And
okay.
one of the main characters is a small side character in Magician called Turoviel. It's an elf, basically works as a scout. Is mentioned a few times in Magician.
Okay.
So that was good. And I read a Star Wars duology for the first time, uh, Riptide and Crosscurrent, which is about Jaden Core, who is the main character in the Jedi Academy video game. So he got a duology. Uh, that duology sets up stuff but goes nowhere. It got ignored in the EU. So it's actually a kind of a kind of a pointless duology in the EU.
Hmm.
It's actually skippable. You don't have to read it and you won't miss anything. So you should only read it if you're a completionist, really. But yeah, um, I didn't hate it, but it was also kind of okay. This is not mentioned anywhere else in the following books, so what was the point?
Hmm.
You know?
Yeah. On the other hand, as you said, though, if you want to be a completionist, that's good to
Yeah,
do. Why
yeah.
not?
And if you want to read two books that are not about the Skywalkers, uh, have at it. But don't expect any follow up stuff or having it, continue in
Go
any
anywhere.
way. Yeah.
Sure. Alrighty. Yeah. I did do a lot of nonfiction books on the royals, such as the Batten, Dickey, the person that was unalived by something with the letters I with or and then an A. It was a good book. I would recommend that if you want to know more about his life. The Housekeeper's Diary about Charles and Diana. I liked
Was
that
the
book.
was the ending a blast?
Wow. Uh, well, I'm just not even going to answer that, but because it was a horrible tragedy because not only was he assassinated, but also he had his grandson with him who also died as well as a little boat boy. It was really something evil. But yes, but that was a good pun and I guess we have dark humor here on Miss Martin Muses, but yeah, if you want to read that. But the Housekeeper's Diary about Charles and Diane, it helps to balance out, I think, some of the narrative that we had from the 90s, maybe because we didn't have the internet that is accepted nowadays, that basically in the marriage of Charles and Diana rather, both were at fault and they should never have been married. And it's really a great tragedy. I read some other royal books, but they were trash. So don't read them. They sucked. But in any case, if you are interested in royal stuff, I did that. I've always been interested in royal stuff since I was a little kid when I went to London and saw the Tower of London. So I love that. And maybe that's why I like a lot of Fire and Blood and things with George R. R. Martin because it's based on like alternate history using some of those royal families. But and then there's a book that I am scared to pronounce in the presence of Stieg that he recommended, a real story of the Norse kings. And I'm reading it, but I haven't finished it yet. I forget what it's called. It starts with an H, but I won't say it because, you know, but it's Icelandic stuff, which is lovely. But the Icelandic dudes and the Norwegians kept going
Is
back and
it
forth
uh
on the books.
is it Heimskringla?
Yes, I was not going to try to say it because I knew I was going to butcher it. It is that book. Yes.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's it's the King Sagas books.
Hmm. I'm not sure anyone else would love it, but I do. I'm a historian, okay? But I have been enjoying it. But of course, it's a bit of a slow read, obviously. It's because it really is long and not necessarily something you're just going to sit by the fire and go, my goodness, let's do this. But I am really enjoying it. And thank you, Steve, for recommending it. And it's real history, not alternative. All right, well, we're going to be wrapping up this
Yeah.
party. Um, Stig, is any final words?
No, just like I said at the beginning of the stream, reading before bed till you get, read till you get tired, and you'll absolutely sleep better.
Yay.
And it's also good to start the day with just read a chapter before you even look at the phone or whatever, because you'll start off with something positive and not stressful in any way.
Yeah,
Because
you'll
if you
be
look at
happy.
social media, odds are within the first minute you'll see something that pisses you off.
Exactly.
You know?
And of course, by reading maybe a lot of the books that we've been talking about, by going backwards, you're not going to have a lot of the baggage that you find in fiction today and in writing. So is a guarantee that you're going to enjoy yourself. So, Steve, where can we find you?
On Mara's channel on Wednesday for our monthly top 10 favorite movie list. And we're doing our top 10 favorite 1995 movies. That's top 10 favorites, not necessarily the best. So
Mm-hmm.
nostalgia is a factor. And, sometimes you keep rewatching a really bad movie that you know is bad, but you like it anyway. So stuff like that sometimes makes our lists as well, you know.
Yeah.
But we're honest about it.
Yeah. And they're loads of fun too because people in the chat can also do their own top 10 list and participate as they go through. Yep. So if you have not already subscribed to Jade Shadow, please go ahead and do so. And you can, of course, find me here on Miss Smart Muses, where I talk about what makes me laugh, makes me cry, makes me happy, makes me sad, or just really ticks me off. I have some videos upcoming. We're going to talk about high tea. We're going to have midweek musings. Catholic Explaining is returning as premieres on Sunday. We're going to Catholic Explain the Bible because why not? Let's just get ambitious. And many, many other things. Hopefully, maybe some more Robert E. Howard material because I just love him so much. So thank you for everyone that's been supporting the channel. I'm finally going to finish the Close Encounters Solfege video. That has probably been the most difficult video I have ever done because it's very hard to present what you need to with music on a video. But if you haven't seen that one, please go ahead and do so. Adega out. Sorry?
Yeah, I was just going to say we have a Dega Outlaw.
Oh, yay, Adega Outlaw. We saw it at the exact same time. I inhaled and exhaled, and here we are. Oh, geez, I'm late. A wizard is never late. But thank you, Adega Outlaw, for being here. I got your book, by the way, so I'm hoping to eventually read it, but I have my pledge. I've got to finish The Wheel of Time first. So, yes, he is an author. So, yes, thanks for being here. It's very late for Steve, or rather very early. And yeah, we've had a great time sharing all of our books. So, everyone, please go back and read all the books that we have been recommending. You will be a happier person. Oh, you're welcome, Adega Outlaw. I like to support, rewriters need to support each other because, that's just the way life is. So I want to thank Adega Outlaw for being here. Ancient One, thank you very much. Tommy R. Frost, he gave us real source inside Lucasfilm. Ubaldo T. We had Salty Traveling Sea, and thank you, Salty Traveling Sea, for the $2 super chat. Unlocking Laura Maria, always good to see you. We had Chris Santh and my cousin, the Another Flower. Nick McCabe, all the way from down under. Aldan has been here. Citizen Ronan, oh boy, I think I might have missed that. I do apologize. DJ Play Nice, thank you. And everyone, Nordporeal Life Form, that will be watching on the replay, and Dead Man Walking, of course, I want to thank him. So, thank you for being here. Smooches! Oh my gosh, we're getting kisses now. I got roses and kisses. It's been a nice day. Yes, please hit the like button. And if you do comment, it helps the algorithm and maybe might help the people who are wanting to get a list of the books that we have recommended. Maybe I'll put some of my favorites in the comments as well. So have a great day, everyone. Have a great day. And be certain to read every day first thing in the morning.